Okay, so I picked up this hone. It's got awesome packaging because it's been around for centuries. And it has spring tension against the cylinder walls, which, let's see, yeah. So this sets it all the way out in that position there. This collar, there we go. So there we go. Putting a spring force, well, it should get in and out. It shouldn't lock it out, it should lock it in. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're good. So we'll get that thing in there, a little bit of oil on it to make sure it's not too goofy. And then on the manual they want between 23 and 33 degree cross hatch from horizontal, this plane of the head being horizontal. So we'll go ahead, it said 250 RPM and 60 strokes per minute. So basically at 250 RPM, we'd want 1/1000. Oh, my screen just went off. I forgot to change that setting. Yeah, so we'd want 1/1000, 2/1000. Well, our drill's going to be closer to 500 RPM, so we're going to do we're going to try to do 120 strokes per minute. You know, really kick her up a notch, because then we can just hold the trigger down. We don't have to guess. And you can see a bit of the crosshatch in there now. So just visually, you know, that looks correct. It looks like a diamond shape. You know, roughly 30 degrees. So we'll try to match the same thing. We want to look down in here, and if we poke it in too far, we could start slapping against this surface and things like that. So we want to be careful that we're not going too much on it, because the stone's about yay high. So really, the stone's going to fill up most of the cylinder. We don't need a lot of movement, but we do need movement to make sure we have a cross hatch and not circles or lines. No, just got to find my drill. Started going at it, wiped a bit off with my finger just so I can see it better, and definitely I'm too shallow right now, right? It's too shallow of an angle. So before I wear too much into it, you know, I want to correct that, make sure that I'm moving the tool faster and rotating it slower. You know, I want to make sure that this is correct. If it's too shallow, it'll wear the rings too fast and they'll skip and all kinds of goofy stuff. And if it's too steep, then you get a lot of oil through and you burn oil like crazy. So make sure we get it right. I'm thinking if I put this on this roll of paper towel, it might show better. This kind of rate, like spinning rate and stroke rate, that seems to be working a little better for me. There's a tool in there, we want it kind of centered. We know that right there is about as far down as we want to go, because the stones overhang a little bit. Same thing on the way up, we don't want to go much further than there. So a pretty small stroke. I think that's going to be about the right angle, so the faster we turn, that's looking better. We'll have to wipe off that WD-40 and see how it looks. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to do more, right? There's a couple spots that look a little barren. I think we can afford a little more. We haven't taken off some of this discoloration, so we're not wearing away a bunch of the cylinder. And this engine's not coated like some of them are, so we are clear to do this. Okay, well, I'm satisfied with that. It's definitely good enough for a lawnmower. If this was like a motorcycle engine or something that I had a little more concern for, I'd go ahead and take it into town. We've got a really good machine shop for our engines in town. Yeah, so as you can see, well, it's close, no cigar, right? It's close, but it's not for this engine. And this kit's for more than one model of engine, so this goes in something else. It is a nice gasket though. It's got like a rubber ring on the inside of it and everything, so it would have been cool if our engine used it, but it doesn't. Fortunately, I have, do I have some engine stuff? Really, we can just use RTV, but if I have my Yama bound, where would I keep that? It makes sense that it's right under my nose, right? It's probably in here. Yama Lube, that's the one. Semi-drying liquid gasket. So as long as that stuff's still good, it's pretty old. I don't know if it ever goes bad. I mean, if it's not hardened up in there, so I think this will be our key in between the engine cases. All right, so next step, get these surfaces ready. They still got some old gasket material stuck to them. We don't want to have to sit here and clean all that by hand. My go-to is a white Rolock disc because aluminum, right? So white on the aluminum makes a nice finish for a head gasket. I've always been real happy with it. I want to make sure to blow out passages, make sure this material's not done on oil passages and things before we actually assemble. And then like yellow Rolock, if you have like iron heads or an iron block, you can use the yellow, a little more aggressive, but it won't dig into the iron. It will get a little nasty with the aluminum, so we stick with the white. Well, here we go. We got the old seal out, just the pry bar, popped it out, cleaned up this surface on the inside to make sure we're good to put the new seal in. Nothing will tear it up. And then we find a socket that just barely fits in there, right? Because what we want it to do is be pushing on this outer edge of the seal, because that's metal. And the outer edge has that spring, and it comes with its own grease already in it. Everything's great. So just kind of get this thing lined up. And then put your socket on it. You want to try to keep it nice and square the whole time. Is this sitting on? Oh, it's sitting on its little dowel pin. That's fine. We're not going to be tapping it too hard. Yeah, and then you just bang it in. Oh, that'll work. See, it doesn't take a lot of force. You want to kind of be careful, make sure that it's going in square. And this does sit all the way down. It's got a lip that it'll hit on the other side. Here's this. This is our manual. So this manual covers multiple engines, the same way the gasket kit covers multiple engines. Then you get this section, right? Because I know nothing, no bearings came out of this. There isn't a single spacer, washer, nothing. And it says some specifications use a needle type thrust bearing, thrust washer, and shim spacer to control end play of the crankshaft. We don't have any of these. If these items are noted during disassembly, make sure they are reinstalled in sequence shown. Whoa. What if I'm supposed to have them and somebody else didn't put them back in? Right? But they do show right here, crankshaft end play shims. We'll just see what our end play is. And then right here, good thing I checked, right? Because there's a lip way down here on this other seal that I was installing, and they don't want you to put it all the way to the bottom. They want it in 8mm, so we didn't do it too far. We were able to tap it in a little further and make it to spec, so that's nice. But yeah, race for thrust bearing presses loosely into closure plate. If it's not already installed, push it into crankshaft bore inside closure plate. Pack thrust bearing with heavy grease and stick bearing into race. Wipe some grease on face of thrust washer and stick into thrust bearing. So I didn't have any shims, I didn't have anything in there, so that's how it's going back together. But if we measure end play and it's too much, maybe we'll need to order up a shim. I hope not. Started to get assembly lube on everything and realized I haven't checked ring gap yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab a piston. We'll grab both pistons, figure out which one goes on which side, and then get our rings situated before we proceed any further. All right, so here we go. Here's the new one. This is the top compression ring. In we go. Go away, flies. And then there's a little H on it. I don't remember what that's for. Usually it would designate what you have, something that would show which side goes up, right? So get it down in there, get it square. We'll get our feeler gauges and check that gap. Okay, so right here on clearance specifications, we have top and middle compression ring end gap for a new bore and for a used bore, right? So we'll just go off of, I mean, this bore isn't new, right? It's slightly worn, but if we're within the new bore tolerance, we'll be pretty happy. So for my engine, CH23, .007 to .018. So, and then our max 0.03, which is huge. So we'll go and we'll check that 007 first, make sure it's bigger than that, and see if it's less than .018. Okay, so two gauges, 007, 018. Seven's tight. That's good. But let me get the camera down and double check. Well, let's see if my paper towel. Oh yeah. And if we pulled that up a little bit, so make sure the ring's nice and square. Here's 007. This is the minimum. Yeah, it doesn't go in. So that ring's too tight. We're gonna have to file it a little bit until this gauge fits inside. Once it does, we'll be at the lower end of ring gap, which will give us plenty of space for it to wear for years and years as we cut our lawn. Oh, I found it. I was looking everywhere because I thought, you know, when I moved this from my other toolkit, I was like, I need a spot for my ring file so I don't lose it. And it was in between these two pieces of foam, right? So at some point I decided that would be my special spot just to put my tungsten ring file. So we can use this to make sure we have nice flat ends on that ring when we adjust it. But I was running all over the place looking for that, which means we get to have ice cream. Ooh. Meat and ice cream. I should have noticed how vastly different these were, right? So here's the second compression ring, which looks pretty close to these, but it's not, right? They're just, if you look at, so I snapped this one out in half so that I could clean in the ring lands. And these are the 1.5 millimeter thick rings. They're both the same size. And then the new, right? So here's oil ring, compression ring, right? Look at how, I was like, wow, I was like, that's really sloppy. It doesn't seem okay to me, right? It's really, really loose in the grooves. And what it boils down to is these are, I didn't think they were, for whatever dumb reason, these are style A pistons. And style A pistons were discontinued, as were their standard size rings. I think you can still get oversize for them, but an oversized ring needs an oversized piston and an oversized bore, so that's not worth doing. The style B pistons, the company I got this stuff from, which, you know, they shipped quickly, they seem like good dudes, and I'm the one that made the mistake, so I shot them an email. What I'm hoping, because the piston kit is about $50 more expensive than just the rings, but it comes with the rings. So I already opened these up and started filing on one. I'm not sure these are even returnable because of that, but the ones that come in the kit are. So one of two things will happen. I'll either have to buy the full kit from them, let the kit arrive, take the rings out of the kit, ship the rings back, and return them as if they were my original ring purchase, or ideally send them a message hoping that they will take the piston kit, separate out the rings, and process the return so that I don't have to ship anything back, and then ship me the pistons with no rings, because it'll be the same financially. It'll just save me the time in the shipping, and hopefully save them the agony of having to open a box and put something on the shelf when they could do it beforehand. I guess it doesn't really help them any. It might actually be easier for them to just ship me the whole kit and then have me ship rings back. And if that's the case, it sucks, but it is what it is. So in the meantime, I'm gonna pack this stuff back up and get things into bags since they're all clean. It's unfortunate we're gonna be replacing these pistons because I got them cleaned up all nice. So there's nothing wrong with them. Maybe, just maybe, somebody wants them and maybe put them up on eBay. Standard size style A pistons. Some idiot might buy them and then do everything else wrong. Oh look, I didn't notice that before. There's a 1 and a 2 for which cylinder's which, so it's kind of cool. Either way, yeah, so we're stuck, but we're not completely stuck. We still have a whole bin of, we can clean off that stator, we can start going through other stuff and cleaning it up in the meantime. So at least our gasket kit's correct, but it's kind of aggravating. It would have been nice to have this thing together tonight, but not gonna happen.